I got to say, I was absolutely nauseated when I opened my phone to the report from whoever it was. I think it was a Los Angeles Dodgers beat reporter that Shohei Ohtani, the Dodgers' newest star acquisition in free agency, the guy who's, yes, he's going to be paid $2 million a year for the next 10 years and then $68 million a year following that. Shohei Ohtani sat in along with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman in the Dodgers pitch for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the guy who the Yankees have been rumored to be the top choice for Yamamoto, a guy who is, let's call it, the Yankees be all end all at this point. You don't get Yamamoto. Your pitching rotation is extremely questionable at best going forward for the Yankees. It was awful to hear that. First off, the fact that Ohtani signed for what he signed, the fact that his agent somehow maneuvered that contract to work and the Dodgers accepted those terms, that was nauseating. And then to read that was just awful, especially as a New York sports fan, clinging to whatever hope I have. And speaking of hope, we got to talk about the insanity run of Tommy Cutlets that, for whatever reason, still lives on and could live on past Sunday. We'll talk about Giants Saints. We'll talk about Tommy Cutlets. And I'll get into a little bit of what I think about what's going on with Draymond Green, all when we return here on the BG Show. All right, episode 12 of the BG Show. Bryce Gelman here. And we are all, if you're a Major League Baseball fan, currently on Yamamoto watch. The top guy in free agency, Shohei Ohtani, signed with the Dodgers. And now we all wait to hear where Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the fellow Japanese countryman, decides to sign. And this has been not as closed lip as the Ohtani signing was, where no one knew any information. There was false reports being put out left and right. We know the top teams for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And according to Bob Nightingale, I think he put this out, I think about 20 hours ago. Although the Dodgers are still looking into Tyler Glasnow and other players, they're still all in on Yamamoto, but the Yankees remain the favorite to sign him. And take that with a grain of salt, because we're talking about Bob Nightingale here, folks. Someone who has built a reputation for being wrong in the past. He was right about the Ohtani report that he wasn't, in fact, on his way to Toronto. He was actually at home in California, but that was just a ploy from Ohtani's camp to get more money from the Dodgers, which worked, but he had the right scoop on that. So maybe he has the right scoop on Yamamoto. But as of right now, according to him, the Yankees are the favorite to land him. And John Heyman, another guy who has had some controversy, specifically with the arson judge information put out about a year ago, he reports that the Yankees and the Dodgers are both the two favorites. And a couple of other guys are reporting that the Mets, so at one point seen as a complete long shot to get Yamamoto, are now in the conversation as well, albeit still some long odds for them to get Yamamoto. But that is where we all stand right now. If you're a baseball fan, if you're a Major League Baseball fan, we're all just sitting around waiting. Is it going to be the highest bidder? Does Yamamoto value tradition and legacy like it's been reported in these past few weeks? Who knows? We have no idea. But if it's a money thing, you could bet your ass that the Mets will be signing Yamamoto. But that's maybe why they're not considered one of the favorites. Because it's been made pretty clear across Major League Baseball that Steve Cohen is willing to outspend anyone and anything and any team who gets in his way of what he wants. And we haven't seen necessarily a bidding war between him and other teams. Maybe it's because he offers so much more than other teams, but this doesn't look to be a bidding war between the top three teams, in which are the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Mets. And we all expected it to be, and it could be behind closed doors. We may not know, because as of right now, it's rumored that Yamamoto will get in excess of $300 million, potentially more. About 2 months ago, it was looking like $200 million. Maybe teams are fully under the realization that this is going to be the best pitching prospect, not even a prospect, the best pitching talent to hit free agency, especially at this age, for a very long time. Or it could be that the Mets are driving up the value of Yamamoto to over $300 million. But right now, as I mentioned before, this is the be all end all for the Yankees. They don't have much wiggle room. They can't exactly transition and pivot to another star pitcher. You're not going to go out and get Blake Snell with the injury problems. He's probably going to be asking for $200 million as well. Another lefty after Carlos Rodon was signed last year. We all know what he amounted to this past year, one of the worst pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. That remains to be seen. And that's a huge, it's an iffy prospect right now. It's up in the air right now. And whether or not he turns out to be what the Yankees expected him to be or not, it could make or break this team for next year. It really can. And I'm struggling to find the words here because it's insane to me that the Yankees finally went out and spent in free agency on a pitcher. I know they signed Garrett Cole in 2019, but they needed another arm, and they got that second arm, the Robin to Garrett Cole's Batman, the number 2 guy in the rotation, and he amounted to absolutely nothing. The only thing of significance happening last year for Carlos Rodon was him getting in that spat with Yankee fans in Anaheim after an awful performance in what was plenty of awful performances last year. So a lot remains up in the air about the Yankees starting rotation. One thing that they can do to shore up any of this unpredictability is sign Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And that brings us back to square one. Will the Yankees eventually prevail? And if I was a betting man, I'd say that the Yankees will get him. As someone who tends to not have false hope, especially about the Yankees, I say he goes to the Dodgers. Because at this point, if the Dodgers could somehow, some way, maneuver themselves into getting both Ohtani and Yamamoto, the rest of Major League Baseball can watch out. Because for the first time, they may actually be near even odds to win the World Series. With that roster, with that pitching rotation, I can't even fathom that potential acquisition. And that's why I opened the show saying that I feel nauseated by that potential acquisition. And right now, I just think any baseball fan is holding out hope. And for the first time, maybe ever, that the Yankees will prevail in the end for a free agent, because this can't turn out to be Kevin Durant going to the Warriors in 2016. That was a disaster. And that made it extremely predictable as to how the rest of the season will unfold. And I understand that baseball is way different than basketball. That if you get the top talent in basketball, you're almost guaranteed to win a championship if your talent greatly exceeds the rest of the talent in the league, or, the number 2, number 3, number 4 seeds. Or if you were the 73-9 Warriors and you added the second best player in basketball. Baseball is way different. And you saw what the Braves were this past year with one of the best lineups ever. From 1 to 9, all of these guys, almost every single one of them, had over a 780, 790 OPS. Some guys, Cunha, Olsen, exceeding 900, 950. And they lost in the playoffs. Decisively lost in the playoffs, in the postseason. So it's extremely unpredictable with baseball. This would make it a lot more predictable, because you put together that rotation, those position players, Shohei Ohtani, you're looking at the next 6, 7, 8 years of Dodgers supremacy. If Dave Roberts can get out of his own way, because the Dodgers, they've been so great in the regular season. They've dominated. They have consistently finished at the top of the NL West, but they have faltered in the playoffs. And this would give them 2 of the best Japanese players potentially ever. One of them is the best baseball player, period, ever, in Shohei Ohtani. It's just an incredible thought to have. It's to think that this could potentially happen. All right, let's move on to something a little bit more uplifting and positive, which is the buzz surrounding Tommy Cutlets. It's incredible to watch right now, specifically as a Syracuse fan, a guy who went to Syracuse and had to witness 2 years of Tommy DeVito, which were terrible to say the least. They were awful. He was not a good quarterback at Syracuse. You could say it was the coaching potentially in Dino Babers. You could say it was the pieces surrounding him, whatever you may have it. He goes to Illinois. He actually looks like a competent quarterback. The Giants signed him as an undrafted free agent. And he turns into what he is right now, which is a serviceable backup in the league who is playing above his own ability right now. He's riding this wave. And this wave could potentially come to an end this weekend against the Saints, who I know we keep saying, like, this is finally a real test. The Patriots have a great defense, Bill Belichick. This is a real test. You see what happened, what Bill Belichick did to Zach Wilson earlier this year. We'll see if he's better than Zach Wilson. He has exceeded and has met, I could say met at this point, because I think fans have the expectation that he will continue whatever he's doing right now. He has met these expectations and then some. And last weekend against a surging Packers team, with a coach on the floor who has not lost in December, I don't think ever, until Tommy DeVito and the Giants won this past Monday. And also the Giants, and specifically Daniel Jones, I think Daniel Jones is 0-8 on Monday Night Football. Tommy DeVito is 1-0. Giants pull off a miraculous win. They win 24-22. I don't think anyone expected them to win that game with the Bobby McCain muff punt. Then Saquon fumbles it for the fourth time in his career with about 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. And then Jordan Love and the Packers come down the field, the length of the field. They score, and they give Tommy DeVito, I think it was a minute and a half with some timeouts. And we all know what happened. Randy Bullock split the uprights. The Giants somehow walked away with a 24-22 win, bringing them to 5-8. And it just makes you think what this season would be like, what the current situation for the Giants would be had they have actually just won probably the most winnable game they've had in years that they actually haven't won, in the Jets game, where they lost 13-10. They were up 10-7. They don't go for it on 4th and 1. Graham Gano, who was hurt, his left knee was injured. He gets put on IR the next week. Misses a chip shot field goal, and Zach Wilson makes 2 throws, 1 to Allen Lazard. You know the picture. You know what happened. You know the story. And the Bills game, which they got screwed out of with a missed call on Darren Waller, a missed hold on that last play, which should have given the ball to the Giants with one last play on the half-yard line. That didn't come to fruition, and the Giants are 5-8. They're still only one game out of the NFC wildcard race, but it does feel like a lost cause at this point, considering the fact that they play the Eagles twice more this year. And the Eagles don't have the standing that they want to have in the NFC. They want to have home field advantage like they had last year, the easiest path to the playoffs. They get the bye. They don't have to play potentially San Francisco in San Francisco. They will be playing and starting their starters week 18. You can bank on that. So not only do the Giants have a tough test this weekend against the Saints, a Saints team which is 7th in pass defense and top 10 in total defense, but they have a must-win game. The first time there have been real expectations for this Giants team in a pretty long time. Maybe you could go back to the Jets game, potentially the Bills game. The Giants need to win this game because they put themselves in a position where they're not going to get the draft pick that everyone expected them to get. They are in the middle of the 10 to 15 range. I mean, they might be a little bit before that. If they lose out, they'll get a top 10 pick, no doubt about it. But they are in a precarious situation in terms of the draft talent that they can, the talent they can add through the draft because of their standing. They need to win this game because not only for the hopes and dreams of all the Giants fans, but for what is best for this team. And at this point, I cannot believe I'm saying it, but they're 5-8 right now. They're not in position to get one of the top quarterbacks. They're not in position to get Marvin Harrison Jr. The Giants need to win out, or at least try to win out. That's exactly what they're doing right now. But as I'm saying, there weren't any expectations these past 3 weeks. It's different. It's a whole different ball game when you've got expectations. Just look at what Rex Ryan said in Hard Knocks about 10, 15 years ago. It's the best place to be because teams actually, and the press and the fans actually respect you. But it's also a time in which talent seeps through and talent is shown and competency is shown. And as of right now, there has been competency shown by specifically the Giants defense, specifically by Tommy DeVito, and specifically by some of these young receivers that he's been throwing to, along with the offensive line who played an extremely solid game last week against the Packers. This is one of the most surprising outcomes I think any of us could have thought up for this 2023 Giants season after going what was it? It was 2-8. The Giants were. And I don't think anyone expected what we're witnessing right now. And again, it brings me back to what I opened with this in this segment. It's what I witnessed in Syracuse, an absolute far cry from what we are all witnessing right now. The hype surrounding this guy, Tommy DeVito, who just a few months ago was in complete obscurity. Not many people knew about him outside of Syracuse fans, Illinois fans, and people who grew up in this area who knew him growing up playing for Don Bosco, one of the top prospects out of one of the top recruits out of New Jersey, quarterback-wise, in a really long time. Or if you were a Giants fan who, like Sean Morash, who knew every single person on the depth chart, you've got to follow the team, and you know their third string, fourth string quarterback who they just signed as an undrafted free agent. Past that, who knew about this guy? And look what has come from all of this. Not only Giant success, but something to be excited about on a week-by-week basis. Something to be able to sleep at night about because you know the Giants are actually competing and aren't losing out. And they have this young quarterback who could potentially turn into something bigger than what any of us expected. That is what we are all living for right now. It's what we're living through right now. We're waiting for Sunday to see if Tommy DeVito is able to continue this magical run, which a lot of people fairly, including myself, are comparing this to Linsanity. And it may not be this weekend, but the next weekend, if the Giants could win against the Saints on Sunday, next weekend against the Eagles will be Jeremy Lin's game against the Lakers. For those who remembered that game, the 38 points from Jeremy Lin, the clutch time performance, outdueling Kobe Bryant. It's going to be Tommy DeVito against Jalen Hurts. And if he outduels Jalen Hurts, this will morph into something that none of us even expected right now. Like, if this continues, the amount of hype surrounding it will not only, I mean, it's already in the mainstream, but it will extend even further than mainstream. This will be legendary status for Tommy DeVito and his family and his extremely stereotypical looking agent going forward. And I don't want to jump the gun here because we're not at the Eagles game. We're not nearly at Christmas just yet. We've got to focus on what's directly in front of us, and that's the Saints. As I mentioned, one of the top pass defenses in the league and one of the top overall defenses in the league. Tommy DeVito's got to continue playing his game. And last week we saw something that we haven't seen from him in the past. Pocket kept collapsing. Tommy DeVito's got this extremely solid pocket presence. And he was able to make work with what little he had open downfield and was able to get some first downs with his legs. He has to continue to improvise, and he has to continue to hold on to the ball. There can't be any interceptions. He still has yet to throw an interception. He cannot blow up and throw 3 or 4 interceptions. I still think he starts the next week against the Eagles because this is and this will be just one game, but he has to continue to hold on to the ball and manage the game. Let the defense take care of the rest. Let the best defensive player in football, in Dexter Lawrence, continue to get to the quarterback, to continue to stop the run. Yes, he's ranked as the top defensive player in all of football, according to PFF. He has been extraordinary this year. Let the defense do what they do. Let Wink Martindale scheme up some awesome blitzes. Let him do whatever he does best, and let these guys stop the run, get to the quarterback, and just manage the game. That's all we're asking for. And yes, make some throws like the one you made to Isaiah Hodgins in the right corner of the end zone at the end of that game, or near the end of that game against the Packers. This is, again, just extremely unexpected and quite the treat. I really thought the season was over. And even last week, I was still holding out hope that the Giants would lose against the Packers because I didn't really buy into the hype. I thought that it had to end at some point, and I thought that last week against a surging Packers team was when it would inevitably end. But at the end of that game, I don't think there was one Giants fan out there who was rooting for the Giants to lose that game. I couldn't do it. And I know a lot of other people out there probably couldn't do it as well. Even the biggest of tank proponents in that moment, competing against, again, as I keep mentioning, a surging Packers team with a chance to win the game. And the Giants won the game in impressive and unprecedented fashion with two boneheaded mistakes down the stretch of that game, and you still come away with the victory. It's a fun time to be a Giants fan right now. And it won't be fun if the Giants lose out the rest of the year and end up with the 10th or 11th overall pick, and we see what Joe Shane is able to do with that. And if that doesn't amount to anything, we will all look back at this as being the catalyst for the Giants sucking for years to come because they weren't able to get a top overall pick, especially if Caleb Williams, if Drake May, if Michael Penix Jr., if one of these guys turns out to be an absolute stud. You will not hear the end of it in the New York media, on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it. So, Giants fans, let's enjoy this while we can right now. And let's hope the Giants can win against the Saints and roll right into that Eagles game on Christmas. Because if the Giants win that game, you have no idea the amount of hype that is going to exponentially grow for this Giants team. All right. Last thing I wanted to talk about, which I could not get away from yesterday at work at SiriusXM NBA Radio and just all over Twitter, was the Draymond Green situation. And now it's been announced last night that Draymond Green will be suspended indefinitely by the NBA. I think the last time an indefinite suspension was handed down was the Gilbert Arenas fiasco, where he was suspended 50-plus games, I think. So this has become a major problem for the league. The NBA has been increasingly cracking down on its star players for whatever reasons, talking crap to the refs by, being too big of complainers, whatever you want to call it. What happened yesterday or 2 days ago when Jokic was thrown out by saying M or Effer, which I didn't agree with, but that's where the NBA stands right now. They've got a new TV deal incoming, and they want to look as good as possible for potential suitors and potential streaming services, potential new networks that want to pick up NBA basketball. And I understand it. I get it. So this situation with Draymond Green is the perfect opportunity right now for Adam Silver to send a message not only to the rest of the league, but to Draymond Green, a guy who thinks he's like God. He's above everyone else. He's always right. The way he speaks, he gets fill-ins on TNT. He is one of the biggest talking heads in the NBA, a guy who's got a podcast, a guy who likes to be heard. And it's also someone who has this God complex, who doesn't take kindly to other people telling him what to do, who doesn't listen to criticism about him. And this is a time in which all criticism about him is completely warranted. Again, the second time this season, striking or doing something out of the ordinary, doing something malicious, violent. This time it was Yusuf Nurkic. Yusuf Nurkic. Yusuf Nurkic. I got it. Striking him with a spinning backhand, which he tried to play off as he was trying to flop and sell the contact. But if he flopped and sold the contact, I don't know where I heard this, but it was a good point made by someone out there that if you were actually doing that to sell the contact and you made accidental contact, you go in and check in on the guy who you just hit. But he didn't do that. So whatever BS he wants to serve up to the media, whatever BS he wants to serve up to the executives with the NBA, to Adam Silver, so be it. The NBA has the opportunity to do something which is much needed for the league and much needed for the person that is Draymond Green, the character that is Draymond Green, human being that clearly needs help. And I think Draymond Green should be suspended 20 to 30 games. I think he'll get 10 to 15, but I think the NBA needs to send a message specifically to him that no one is above the league. That if you continue to make these same boneheaded mistakes, you will be punished for it. And if you do it again, you're out of the league. There's really no other option here. And it's said this keeps having to happen. And if I were an NBA player, I'd be absolutely furious having to go out on the court with him on a night-by-night basis. Even if you're a teammate of his, Jordan Poole got punched out by him. No one's safe in the league. I'd be furious right now. And Adam Silver's going to have to do something drastic to regain the trust and respect of all the players in the league who make a significant amount of money. And Draymond makes a significant amount of money too. He's going to be missing out on $200,000 per game, and the Warriors are going to be saving $500,000. It's a crazy situation, one that needs to be put to an end. Hopefully the NBA does the right thing, and hopefully they suspend him for more than 10 to 15 games like it's expected. All right, that'll do it for this edition of the BG Show. Hopefully the next time I speak to all of you fine people, the Yankees will have locked down Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and the Giants will be preparing for a huge matchup, a potential playoff implication matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles on Christmas Day. See you all next week.